We continue now at the top of Daf Meseches and Meseches Bava Basra. This is Bava Basra Daf 68b. On the previous summit, the Gemara was discussing what does Rav Shimon ben Gamliel mean in the Mishnah when he says that if one sells a city, included in the sale is the santer. And there was two opinions in the Gemara. One opinion is that santer means the fields that surround the city, and the other opinion is that the santer refers to an individual, a registrar, somebody who surveys the city, and he knows exactly where the boundary lines are within the city for the private properties, the public properties, etc. And we're now in the second version of the discussion in the Gemara in terms of which opinion makes more sense in the interpretation of santer. And the Gemara now continues, according to the one who says that Rav Shimon ben Gamliel means to say bar muchavnisa, meaning to say, he means to say that the registrar, that person is included in the sale. So now if we're going to assume that Beis Hashlochin of the Tanakama is Ginunaisa, which means the garden, so the Gemara now asks, Amar Tanakama Ginunaisa, the Tanakama is saying that the Ginunaisa, the gardens are included in the city. Umahadule Rav Shimon ben Gamliel bar muchavnisa, and the response of Rav Shimon ben Gamliel is that the registrar is included. That wouldn't really make sense as a response. One person is talking about gardens being included in the sale, the other then responds that the bar muchavnisa, this person who's in charge of surveying the city, he's included. That kind of exchange between the Tanakam and Rav Shimon ben Gamliel does not make sense. The Rashbam explains, according to the one who says that santer of Rav Shimon ben Gamliel is the bar muchavnisa, is the registrar, what kind of addition is this to the words, to the opinion of the Tanakama? The Tanakama Amar Ginu Naisam is Davni, because the Tanakama is saying that the gardens are sold. And what's his point of saying that? You're supposed to infer, Avol Bagi Lo Mizdavni, only the gardens are included in the sale, but the surrounding fields are not included in the sale. The Kamahadar of Shimon ben Gamliel, then Rav Shimon ben Gamliel is responding, Bar Muchavnisa Nami Mizdavin. The Bar Muchavnisa, that registrar, he's also included in the sale. Bitmiya, that's a wonder. It's a strange kind of response. Hachi Avalei Lemisni. It should have said as follows. Rav Shimon ben Gamliel Omer, HaMocher Sa'ir Mocher Es Habagi V'es HaSanter. It should say that Rav Shimon ben Gamliel responds to Tanakama, you say only the gardens, I say the surrounding fields and the santer and the registrar are included. From the fact that Rav Shimon ben Gamliel only mentions the santer, then it sounds like he heard the Rabbanan say that santer is not included, and he's coming and saying, no, santer is included in the sale. And so therefore you have to say, if shlachin is the ginunaisas, the gardens, bebagi hu damar rabbanan lo mizdavni, must be the rabbanan and the Tanakam who are saying that the surrounding fields were not included in the sale. And then he's coming and saying the surrounding fields are included. That would make much more sense. And the Gemara answers within this version, misavrit my shlachin ginunaisa. Do you think that the shlachin that the Tanakam mentions, you think that means ginunaisa, the gardens? Lo, no. My shlachin, what is shlachin? Bagi, it means the surrounding fields. T'chsiv, as it's written in the pasuk, v'sholeach mayim al pnei chutzos, he sends the water to the outer areas. Again, meaning to say these are fields that require irrigation, that require water, and therefore, if Beis HaShlachin or if Shlachin in the Mishnah refers to these outer fields, then it makes sense what Rav Shimon ben Gamliel is responding. He's responding, not only are the outer fields included in the sale, but also the registrar, also this particular individual is going to be included, as the Gemara now explains. According to Tanakama, only these outer fields are included in the sale, but the bar muchavnisa, the registrar, is not included in the sale. V'yasser Rav Shimon ben Gamliel Rav Shimon ben Gamliel is coming to say that the bar muchavnisa nami mizdavin, that the bar muchavnisa, the registrar as well, is also sold, is included within the sale. And the Gemara continues, Tashma, coming here the following proof in terms of what santer means. This proof is being brought from a brisa. Rabbi Yehuda Omer, Rabbi Yehuda says, santer eino mocher, the santer is not sold together with the city. Ankulmus mocher, but the ankulmus is the city scribe, he is sold, he is included within that sale. And so the Gemara says, my lav is it not? Me the ankulmus gaver, from the fact that the ankulmus refers to a person, it's the city scribe, it's an individual. So santer nami gaver, isn't the santer also that Rabbi Yehuda is mentioning? That also should be a person, that should be this registrar. This should be proof, this brisa should serve as proof that the santer is actually the bar muchavnisa, the person who acts as the registrar for the city. And the Gemara says, not necessarily midi area, does that really have to be the case? Ha-kedisa, could be that each one is a different definition, they're not necessarily within the same category, meaning it could be that Rabbi Yehuda is saying that the santer, which now refers to the outer fields of the city, those are not included in the sale, but the ankulmis, the city scribe, is included in the sale. But the Gemara continues, but can you really say this? Meaning, can you really say that when Rabbi Yehuda says santer eino machar, he's referring to the outer fields? V'al-katani seifa, but it says at the end of this brisa, it says avalo shayreh, it says the remnants are not included in the sale. We'll see what that means. V'lo benoseh, that means the nearby villages, they're not included in the sale of a city. V'lor chorshen hamuksin lo, and let's say you have areas of forests or woods that are designated for the city, they are not included in the sales. V'lo bevarin, in the sale of the city. V'lo bevarin shel chayev v'shel ofos v'shel dagim, and any enclosures for wild animals or birds or fish, those are not included in the sale. V'amrinan, and we say on this brisa, at the end of this brisa, we try to understand what does shayreh mean. My shayreh, what's shayreh? Bizli, it refers to bizli, and my bizli, what are bizli? Amar Rabbi Abba, Rabbi Abba says piski bagi. It's these strips of fields. Essentially, these are smaller areas of fields that are a little more distant and a little more separated from the city. And so, if you're understanding that what we're saying at the end is that these strips of bagi are not included, we can infer piske bagi hu delom is davni, that the piske bagi, those strips of these outer fields, are not included in the sale. Ha bagi atzman mizdavni, but the actual outer fields, surrounding fields themselves, they are included in the sale. So then Rabbi Yehuda is saying that those are included, so santer can't refer to the outer fields, because he says santer is not included in the sale. That would be a contradiction. And so the Gemara answers Epoch. So the Gemara says, according to this, if you're going to say that santer refers to the bagi, the surrounding fields, you have to reverse what it is that Rabbi Yehuda said. Rabbi Yehuda Omer santer machar. Rabbi Yehuda says the santer is included in the sale, and on kulmis eno machar. And the ankulmis, it's the city scribe that is not included within the sale. But the Gemara continues, Umi motzes amrit Rabbi Yehuda Reb Shimon Gamliel svirle. Can you really say that Rabbi Yehuda holds like Reb Shimon Gamliel? Because now we're suggesting that Rabbi Yehuda says santer machar, and if he says santer machar, it means again, let's say we say it means the surrounding fields, those are included in the sale. And Reb Shimon Gamliel also said santer machar, that the surrounding fields are included in the sale. Can we really say that they agree? But we see in a different place that Rabbi Yehuda actually agrees with the Rabbanon, the Katani Seifa, because what does it say in the Seifa? What does it say again at the end of the Brisa? It says avalo shireh avalo benoseh. It says that the areas of the remnants, and again we understood that the remnants means to say the piske bagi, those strips of surrounding fields, those are not included in the sale. Velo benoseh, not the surrounding villages, those are also not included within the sale. That's what Rabbi Yehuda says at the end of the Brisa. Veilu Reb Shimon Gamliel ha'amar machar sa'ir machar benoseh. But whereas Reb Shimon Gamliel, he says that when a person sells a city, he is selling the surrounding villages. So you see that he doesn't agree with Reb Shimon Gamliel when it comes to benoseh, because the Rabbi Yehuda says that the benoseh are not included in the sale. The villages are not included. Reb Shimon Gamliel says they are included, and yet we're also saying Rabbi Yehuda agrees with Reb Shimon Gamliel that the santer is included, and the Gemara proves that Reb Shimon Gamliel says that the benoseh are included in the sale. The Tanya, as we learned in a brisa, hamocher so ir lo mocher benoseh. The Tanna Kama says one who sells a city has not sold the surrounding villages. Reb Shimon Gamliel omer hamocher so ir mocher benoseh. Reb Shimon Gamliel says if one sells a city, he does sell the surrounding villages together with the city. And so therefore here again, it seems like Reb Shimon Gamliel is saying the benoseh is included. Rabbi Yehuda says they are not. And the Gemara answers, Rabbi Yehuda savar like kavase bechada. Rabbi Yehuda does hold like Reb Shimon Gamliel in one regard, meaning with regards to the santer, he agrees with Reb Shimon Gamliel upalagale bechada, but he argues with him in another regard, meaning when it comes to benoseh, Rabbi Yehuda disagrees with Reb Shimon Gamliel. And the Gemara continues at the two dots we just said above. V'lo bevorin shel chayev v'shel ofos v'shel dagim. Included in the sale is not the enclosures of the wild animals and the birds and the fish. And the Gemara says, Uramini, we have the following contradiction from a brisa: hayu labanos, if there are surrounding villages, einim karosim, or they're not sold together with a city. Hayu la chelek echad b'yam v'chelek echad b'yabasha. Let's say the city has a portion that it's water, a portion of the city is water, is the sea, and a portion of the city is dry land. Bevorim shel chayev v'shel ofos v'shel dagim, and if the city has enclosures of wild animals, birds, and fish, harei elo nimkarim ima, these are sold together with the city. So here we have a contradiction in terms of the enclosures, whether they're included in the sale or not. And the Gemara answers, Lokash, it's not difficult. In one case, we're talking where the openings of the enclosure are towards the inside, meaning towards the city. Then we say they are included within the sale. In the other case, we're talking where the openings of the enclosures are towards the outside, away from from the city, those kind of enclosures are not included in the sale. And the Gemara says, V'hakatani, but doesn't it say in the Brisa, V'lo es chorshen hamuksin la? It says that the forests areas, the wooded areas, which are designated for the city, are not going to be included in the sale. That's what we said above in the Brisa. That implies that it's opening towards the city. It's designated, it's muksin la. It's designated for the city, and still it's not included in the sale. And the Gemara says, Ema, rather it should say not hamuksin la, but hamuksin heimena, that are designated away from it, meaning to say the exact opposite. It's not opening towards the city, but the ones that are opening away from the city, those are not included within the sale. And the Gemara continues with the Mishnah, Hamocher es hasoda, if somebody sells a field, mocher es ha'avonim shehem letzarcha, he sells together with the field the stones that are needed for the field, v'yas hakonim shebekerem shehem letzarcho, and also the reeds in the vineyard that serve the vineyard, v'yas hatvua shemuchuberes lekarka, and also the produce that is still attached to the ground, that's also included in the sale, v'yas chitzas hakonim shepechusa me beis rova, and also the cluster of reeds, if it takes up less than the space of a beis rova, so it's not so significant on its own, that's included in the sale, v'yas hashomera she'ino asuya betit, and the watch station that isn't plastered with clay, that is also included within the sale. V'yas hachorav she'eno murkov, and also the carob tree, which is not grafted. The idea is that it's not strong, it's not matured yet, it's not significant on its own, so it's included within the sale. V'yas besulas hashikma, and the young sycamore tree, that also, it's not considered choshev on its own, so it's included in the sale. Avalo machar lo es ha'avonim she'eno letzorcha, but he has not sold together with the field the stones that are not used for the field. V'lo es hakonim shebekerem she'eno letzorcha, and not the reeds in the vineyard that are not used for the vineyard. V'lo es hatvua she'telusha min hakarka, not the produce which is detached from the ground. And the Mishnah continues, Bizman shamar lohi v'chol masha besocha. Now, if he says that he's selling the field and everything within it, hare kulan mechur, and then all of the items mentioned above are sold together with the field. Bein kach uvein kach, but whatever he says, even if he says kol masha besocha, lo machar lo es chitzas hakonim she beis rova, he has not sold the cluster of reeds which does take up the space of a beis rova. Again, that's considered significant on its own, so it's separate, not included in the sale. V'lo es hashomera she asuya betit, and not the watch station which is plastered with clay. Again, that's also significant on its own and not included in the sale. V'lo es hachorav hamurkov, and not the carob tree that was grafted. That's also significant on its own. V'lo es sadon hashikma, and not the sycamore tree. And the Rashbam explains, ha'avonim she'en letzarcha, again the stones that are for the use of the field. B'gemara mefarish, the Gemara will explain that. V'yafagav de tashmishin hametaltel and hey. Now, even though these are movable objects, kevon dekvil haytashmish, since they're set aside for this particular use, vein mezizino, so they don't move them, mehaisadeh, from this field, liolam kemechuber chashav lu, they're still considered like mechuber, as if they are attached to the ground. And the Rashbam continues, v'yasachorav she'eno murkov, and the carob tree that is not grafted, dahainu bebachru, so essentially it means it's a young tree. Aval kishemazkinu mizgaver, when it gets older, when it's stronger, markivino, so then they grafted, v'yesh lo shem b'fnei atzmo. The point is, it has its own shame, it has its own name. V'lo batal agabe sadeh, it's not considered nullified to the rest of the field. It's not considered to be insignificant on its own. Avol kol shari lonos bichlal sadeh, but all the other trees, the Rashbam notes, they are certainly part of the field. And the Rashbam continues, besulas hashikma, that's the young sycamore, bebachrusa, again when it's young, kodem shenechtechu anofeh, before you trim the branches. Avol keshamazkin v'gadol harbe, again when it gets older, when it grows a lot, kodetzin hanofim, they begin to trim the branches. Uboim acherim b'mkomon, other ones come in their place. V'nikra sadon hashikma, that's when it's called sadon hashikma. That again is considered to be significant on its own, and therefore it's not considered included in the field. And finally, the Rashbam says, lo es chitzas hakonim, also not included in the field is the cluster of reeds that is a significant size, that is a beis rova. Shekol elu chashuv and sadeh b'fnei atzman, all of these are considered like their own independent fields. They're considered significant on their own, and that's why they are not included in the sale. And we will continue with this discussion in the next video on Daf Samech Tes Amud Aleph.